Hey folks, might seem like May was an awful long time ago, but I had a few wee movie nights during those warmer evenings. Not a huge amount, but I did see some interesting films. But let's just jump right into it, like everybody else says on YouTube. So in the grand tradition of watching terrible low-budget indie films off Amazon, I watched a movie called The Alchemist's Cookbook. Now, this is one of those films in the vein of Who Killed Captain Alex or Bad Taste that was clearly shot by some guy who was a film student in his grand's caravan a long weekend during the school holidays. And The Alchemist Cookbook's all about Sean, who is a practicing alchemist, who's got this weird old book that he's working his way through, while every now and again his pal Cortez comes bringing him supplies and, more importantly, his medication for whatever's mentally wrong with him. And one day his pal forgets the pills, and after that things get a lot weirder and Sean's sanity starts slipping, or maybe he's actually managed to summon some sort of demon. It's not entirely clear. And if this sounds a little bit familiar, it's probably because it's not a million miles away from the movie Sator, which does a very similar guy alone in the woods going mad, or is it really a monster or demons? Only Sator was actually a well-acted, subtle and beautifully shot film. This is exactly what it looks like. It's some laddie with a camcorder who's just at film school, who has very good intentions but clearly doesn't have the skills or the budget to make his vision really come off. And really, there's absolutely nothing else to recommend this. I'd give this a 2 out of 5 just purely because there was a couple of moments where it made me chuckle, but the rest of the movie is absolutely terrible. And I think all those moments were basically down to Cortez. So yeah, watch Sator instead, or The Evil Dead, or Mary Poppins, or hell, anything, really. Next up after that, because Friday night film choices are apparently some kind of summer poison, was Night of the WereRooster. Yes, you heard that right. WereRooster. And this is a movie where 5 disparate souls head off into the woods to try and find out what happened to their missing loved ones, led by a girl called Charlotte, who's a slightly offbeat lassie who might just know something about what's happening. And one by one they start getting picked off by the mysterious WereRooster, which, just by the way, you never actually see, so don't watch this if you're hoping to see some kind of creature feature. And basically this is just a really bad parody of Predator made by people who don't realise that they're not very funny. So yeah, this is garbage. And it was shot on the super cheap, and everybody involved is an absolute rank amateur. But I mean, you know that. I've got to be honest, again, I did chuckle at a couple of dumb gags and silly lines, so at least the movie has that going for it, if nothing else. 2 out of 5, skip it unless you're very, very drunk, or just want to watch something absolutely terrible. Thankfully, I did actually see something that was half decent this month, and that was Fleabag. More specifically, I watched the National Theatre filmed version of it. Now, if you've never heard of Fleabag, it's the brainchild of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who also wrote the TV show Killing Eve, which I haven't actually seen yet, but it got very well reviewed. And she created Fleabag as a one-woman show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival some years ago. And it was really successful, like major crazy successful. So she got together with the BBC and I think Amazon, and they turned it into a 6-part TV show. So I will be using clips from both different versions, as I've seen most of the TV show as well at this point. Now, it's all about this unnamed lassie in London, the titular Fleabag, who's telling her story directly to the audience, all about how she has this little weird cafe that's going under, her best pal recently died, her sister has all these neuroses and issues, and her dad's remarried to somebody she hates, and everything is basically going wrong in her life, and on top of it all, she is absolutely completely obsessed with sex and relationships. And this is basically a rollercoaster ride of emotions, as it's genuinely very funny and incredibly cleverly written, but it's also very dark and grimly sad at points. And the fact that it's a stage play really, really helps, because being bluntly honest, I really struggled with the TV show in the first few episodes because I kind of hated the character, and she really seemed like a bit of a dick. And I think one way that the play version works better is that on the TV version, you're getting to actually see what she's doing and how she reacts to people. And instead of it being a bit of a funny thing, like for example, the guy that she talks about looking like a rodent. Now, that's just her perception, rather than in the TV show. He's actually an actor with daft hair and prosthetic teeth that you feel kind of sorry for. I mean, no shade to the actor, by the way. He does a really good job. It's just that whole thing just made me feel uncomfortable and made me feel like she's not a very nice person. Whereas if all you're hearing is her sort of impression of it, it's slightly different and it comes across as less unkind. But anyway, yeah, you should definitely watch it because it has so many twists and turns. It's a beautifully told story, and it's an absolute 4 out of 5. And currently, it's running on Amazon Prime along with a few other national theatre shows that are up there, like the Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller versions of Frankenstein. But yeah, anyway, also, as I said, the 6-part TV show, which I enjoyed as well, and I should really get around to watching season 2, so maybe I'll get on that soon. It's been a while since I watched some decent sci-fi, and Moon 44 It's not that, but it is a classic example of B-movie obscurity, made by Roland Emmerich, he of Independence Day, The Patriot, and Stargate, and starring a lot of people that you've never heard of. Like this one guy who Arnie killed off in The Terminator, and this other dude who's been in things and stuff, and Malcolm McDowell, who's picking up a check, is clearly the bad guy. And one thing that's interesting is that Dean Devlin is one of the main cast in this film. Now, you might know the name Dean Devlin, but you've probably not recognised him, because he's not really an actor. I don't think he actually did any acting after this, but on the set of this film, he got to be really good pals with Roland Emmerich, and he's been the writer on most of Emmerich's films ever since. And this film's all about in the future where corporations are mining moons for resources. So far, so topical. But unfortunately, space pirates also want these resources, so they start attacking the moon bases in drone ships. So to save money, the company decides to send convicts to work as defence pilots in exchange for reduced sentences. And they also send in Tough Guy McStoic, who's actually an internal affairs cop sent to figure out who's secretly sabotaging this operations. And you would actually be forgiven for thinking that this was some late 70s or early 80s film from the look and feel of it, in part because the aesthetic and the set design is shamelessly stolen from films like Alien, Blade Runner, Star Wars, and that this was a movie that was definitely made on the super cheap in West Germany when that was still a thing, just before the Berlin Wall came down, and it was actually released shortly afterwards in 1990. But it's kind of a mess. It's got some bad dialogue, hammy performances, and a story that doesn't know if it's Prisoner Cell Block H, Top Gun, Aliens, or something weird in the middle. But you know what? It is vaguely compelling and watchable, so yeah, 3 out of 5 for what was a surprisingly endearing piece of humdrum space nonsense. Check it out. So yeah, May was a busy month for me, and I didn't see that many films other than mostly the Friday night film night ones, which explains some of the less than stellar entries I saw. But the one good thing is that I'm almost back up to date. There's only June's episode to go, and then I'll actually be back in line to hit July, just at the beginning of August. Fantastic. So till next time, these have been my grumpy opinions. And a special thanks to all my patrons, and most especially my top tier patrons Judith Coloma, Laurie Laporte, and Michelle Forbes. Thanks guys, everyone keep it real, keep safe, and take care of yourselves. Bye bye.